Welcome to the Bold Encourager. I'm Rebekkah. Thank you so much for joining me today. We're continuing the ladies camp episodes. Unfortunately, when I was at ladies camp and I recorded my second part to shift, it got really dark, and so it wasn't very effective because you couldn't see me in the beginning of it because it was around 6 o'clock that I started speaking. It was a lot more light, but then towards the middle of it got really dark. So I figured, you know what? Hey, let's not cry over spilt milk. Let's still do the second part of shift, but let me just go ahead and do it in my studio. It will look really good because hey, I can adjust a lot more things while I'm at my studio, but I wanted to finish this series and I didn't want to let you down, so I said even though it was dark, that didn't work out, it's okay. We'll go ahead and re-record it and do it in my studio so that you can still know what it is to shift. So now I have already gone over the S, H, and I. S stands for serve like Jesus did. H stands for heal from the past, and I stands for influence others to be bold as lions. Now we're moving on to the F. F stands for focus on Jesus. So we'll be covering the F now for shift. As we go through each season and every transformation, we will always need to focus on Jesus. Jesus is how we keep our peace and how we continue to transform in our lives. He is our everything, and He is the only way. There will be storms in our life, but if we continue to focus on Him, He will always help us through every difficult season that we will face. The verses that remind me of this is Matthew 14:22 through 32. Immediately He made the disciples get into the boat and go before Him on the other side, while He dismissed the crowds. And after He had dismissed the crowds, He went on the mountain by Himself to pray. When evening came, He was there alone, but the boat by this time was a long way from the land, beaten by the waves, for the wind was against them. And in the fourth watch of the night, He came to them walking on the sea. But when the disciples saw Him walking on the sea, they were terrified and said, "It's a ghost!" And they cried out in fear. But immediately Jesus spoke to them, saying, "Take heart, it is I. Do not be afraid." And Peter answered Him, "Lord, if it is you, command me to come to you on the water." He said, "Come." So Peter got out of the boat and walked on the water and came to Jesus. But when he saw the wind, he was afraid and beginning to sink, he cried out, "Lord, save me." Jesus immediately reached out His hand and took a hold of him, saying to him, "O you of little faith, why did you doubt?" And when they got into the boat, the wind ceased, and those in the boat worshipped Him, saying, "Truly, you are the Son of God." Peter took his eyes off Jesus when he was afraid. It is often when we fear the storm of the unknown that we take our eyes off Jesus. We all have moments of weakness. I know I do. Peter illustrated how most of us react to any kind of trouble we face, and thankfully, Jesus is always faithful to rescue us from the storms we face in life. We can also recognize that Jesus said, "Come," and only Peter joined Him on the water. The other disciples could have come, but they didn't even step off the boat. Isn't that crazy? The credit we can give to Peter is that at least he got off the boat and accepted the opportunity to change. Jesus is also holding out His hand to each of us and inviting us to change. Are you willing to get off the boat and walk in faith? Think about it. Are you willing to change? This is an invitation to you, and Jesus is asking you, "Hey, daughter, son, where are you in this? Are you ready to step off the boat and walk in faith? What has He been asking you to do that you have been unwilling to change in?" This is what this is about. I had a dream a long time ago when I wasn't reading my Bible that I was on the boat with my mom and another girl. I don't know who the other girl was. I couldn't see her. Then I saw Jesus, and He held out His hand to me, and He encouraged me to walk on the water with Him. Then I looked down and I saw all these snakes, and they were below me. A big snake came and tried to pull me under the water. Then Jesus reappeared and rescued me from the snakes. The snakes represented fear, worry, and also they are what distracts us from focusing on Jesus. We have many distractions in our lives that are sometimes make us too busy, and it makes us too busy for having that relationship with Jesus. So what are your snakes? What are your worries? What are your fears? What are your distractions that are causing you not to be focused on Jesus? After Jesus reappeared, he brought me to the sandy beach and he smiled at me. He said, "Be prepared." The very next day, I started reading my Bible again, and the dream helped me to transform because I needed to be reminded that I had made myself too busy to spend time with God. I let life's distractions prevent me from making my time with God a priority. I want you to take a time to reflect on what life distractions are preventing you from focusing on Jesus. There are so many distractions, such as social media. We know that, right? A busy work life, TV, relationships, friendships, or our social lives, etc. Whatever that may look like for you. We must make it a habit to refocus when it happens and get connected to Jesus. Now the T, transformation. Once we get through all these steps that I just went over, we begin to transform. We sometimes must go through breakthrough before we can transform. I prayed for breakthrough during the year of 2020. Then towards the end of 2021, I ended up facing a lot of difficult circumstances that led me to breakthrough, and this was recently. So, me and my dreams, I always have dreams and they come true and everything and they apply, but I had a dream about a few years ago that me and my husband Matt were on a roller coaster ride, and it was going up and down through the desert. It wasn't a physical roller coaster ride, but it had the motion of a roller coaster ride. And at the end of the ride, I had a big glass of water in my hand, and I broke the water in my hand, which stood for breakthrough. At first, I didn't know what it meant until this past year. The roller coaster ride started in 2021 when my father-in-law was in and out of the hospital. The doctors couldn't figure out what was wrong with him, but he continued to lose a lot of blood. And after 6 months, they finally figured out he has cancer. It was difficult news for me and my husband to hear because he had become like a second father to me. And he was an amazing father to my husband. We tried to stay positive because we wanted him to be encouraged. We wanted him to make it through. And then in December, my husband got in his first accident because he was hit from behind. This was difficult because we were already going through so much already, right? With my father-in-law having cancer, then in January, my dog, my very first dog that I had been through was so much, and she had been with me for 15 years, got diagnosed with tracheal collapse. So it was another circumstance that had me feeling even more down. Then my father-in-law got COVID and ended up in the hospital. We were trying so hard to stay positive and looked at the good. We would get good news and then it would follow up with bad news again. Then it all took a turn for the worse because he passed away. My husband's dad passed away in February, and both of us got COVID on the day he passed away. My dog's health got worse, and she passed away a few months later. Shortly after that, my husband got into another accident, which wasn't his fault again, and someone hit him from the other side. And it led to him feeling quite a little bit depressed and anxious. And thankfully, he's gotten to a better place over time. But here I was. I could feel the ups and downs from the roller coaster ride. And I began to question God. When is this roller coaster ride going to end? And when will I get to breakthrough? I had to be broken to transform. I had been impatient and I lacked self-control. And I needed to be humbled so that I could truly serve God with my whole heart. During this time, I walked through all these steps. I served like Jesus did by sharing the Word of God through the Bold Encourager, my YouTube channel, and living a life pleasing to God. I healed from the past by healing from the loss of my father-in-law with the help of my family. I healed from also the loss of my dog. I learned to be influential in my family by living a righteous life. It led to my sister coming back to her faith, and my niece has now also started going to church, and she's been working on her faith. I learned to focus on Jesus during these difficult times. I'm not going to lie. It has been tough focusing on Jesus when the circumstances get so difficult. But finally, I'm getting better at it. As crazy as it sounds, it did lead to breakthrough and transformation. And sometimes we got to go through it to get to it. Now that we're talking transformation, there are actually 3 different types of transformations that can take place. We can transform into a butterfly, which is a good thing. Or we can transform into a moth or a locust, which is a bad thing. The butterfly transformation is when we follow all the steps I just outlined so that God can do something beautiful through us. Butterflies help plants grow, just like when we help others grow. If we want to transform into a righteous follower of Christ. If we don't follow these steps or live a life for Christ, we could easily transform into moth that destroys things. There's even a Bible verse that talks about this. Matthew 6:19 through 20, ESV. Do not lay up for yourselves treasures on earth where moth and rust destroy, and where thieves break in and steal. But lay up for yourself treasures in heaven where neither moth nor rust destroys, and where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, that is where your heart will be also. If our hearts aren't right, we can transform into a moth. Hurt people hurt people. So it is very important to heal from the past. The third transformation, which is even worse than the moth, is a locust. Locusts are very deceiving because they can often look like a butterfly, but they are far from being butterflies. They destroy entire crops. And these are the type of people that are wolves in sheep clothing and false prophets. They can easily destroy an entire harvest by being deceptive. There's one thing I know for sure. I want to be a butterfly. How about you? And so one example of a locust I could find in the Bible is Paul. He was persecuting the Christians. And we can see that in if you go through Acts 9:1 through 19, I'm not going to read it, but he actually was destroying the Christians. He was persecuting them because he thought he was doing a good thing, and he was being deceptive in a way because he was a religious figure. And so most people would think, oh, he's a butterfly, but he was actually persecuting Jesus. And so even Jesus approaches him in Acts 9 and say, Paul, well, his name at the time was Saul. Saul, Saul, why are you persecuting me? And Saul was blinded by the time, and he couldn't see. He couldn't see spiritually. So God actually blinded him physically so he could understand that he was blind spiritually. And he went from being a locust to a butterfly because he transformed into one of the greatest apostles in the Bible, because he became someone that led so many people to Christianity. So yes, even if you're a moth or a locust at this point in time, you can still transform into a butterfly like Paul did. What does that look like for you? I want you to start reflecting on your transformation goals. How can you take these steps we just went over through in Shift and make the changes you need to make to live a life that is Christ-centered? We are always transforming in every season. We never stop transforming until we get to heaven. but we can transform in every area of our life. What area of your life do you want to transform in? What is preventing you from growing in your spiritual walk? I think that this whole transitioning of the whole point of transforming is that we live incredible lives. Lives that God makes God shine in our lives. The whole point of this is that we want to shine like Jesus did. We want to be more and more like him every single day. We will never be perfected here on earth until we get to heaven. But we strive for perfection by being more like Jesus. There is no, I'm not talking about perfection as the world sees it. I'm not talking about, oh, let's make everything perfect and neat and in the way that we see it. But when we look for striving perfection to be more righteous, we look to be more pure. And that is living lives that are blessed by the fruit of the Spirit. When we have those things in us, we are incredibly the person that God created us to be. We are the best representative that we could possibly be. We're going to slip up. We're not going to be perfect. We're going to make issues for ourselves. We're going to make it tough. We're going to go through the things like the roller coaster ride and all that stuff. And we're going to find ourselves in places that we don't want to be in. But at the end of the day, what is more important than really living your life for Christ? He died for us so that we could be saved and that we could make it into heaven where there is perfection. But while we're here, let's strive to find the transformation in ourselves. We can not earn our way into heaven. It's not about earning your way, but what it is about is consistently growing. Finding a way. How do I grow in this area? How can I be better in this area? What can I do? It's important to know that it's not about religion. It's about having a relationship with God and filling that yourself up with the Holy Spirit. Being filled with the Holy Spirit and living a life according to the way Christ would want us to is what we strive for. We'll never ever be perfect. We'll never be fully transformed on this earth, as I said, but we can do everything we possibly can to live a righteous life, to be bold as lions, and doing everything according to the Word of God. And we have to live have a relationship, an intimacy with God. We do that by spending time with Him, reading our Bibles, praying, living a life worthy of Christ. I really hope this message really encouraged you to find the transformation in your life. There's never enough, but hey, we try to sum it up in an acronym SHIFT for the beginning of your work in transformation. You could start a journal and start writing how you're going to go ahead and do the shift in your life. Going forward, the next episode, my friend Kyra will share what it is to renew. And she's going to go over all those steps in the last episode of Renew. But I think importantly, we need to do our shift and then we renew. It's all about change and then finding the renewal in our lives. It's a consistent process, so it never ends. So it's going to look different in every season, but I want you to be encouraged that you can never stop growing. You can never stop transforming. And you will always be you can always get better and better and better, right? So there is no harm in always looking for the transformation in your life. Well, I hope you enjoyed this message. And if you did, please don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Also, if you haven't followed me on social media, please follow me on social media. The links will be down below. I post content weekly and it varies from day to day, so you don't want to miss any of my episodes. So please go ahead and hit that notification bell and you'll be notified every time I post a new video and you won't even have to think about it. Well, I hope you stay encouraged and I hope you have an amazing day.